look at some of the mounting and wiring resources and considerations. And then at the end, we will look at the custom retrofit solutions and what we can offer as far as custom solutions there. Again, we'll step through each one of these. This is kind of a high level, an intro. There could be much more data on this. This is just to kind of get the ball rolling here. And by the end, the idea is that you will be able to retrofit a butterfly valve with a Belimo actuator. Okay? And just a quick note, again, at the end we'll talk about custom linkages that really encompasses if you don't have the make and model. So without further ado, we'll talk a little bit about the why, the introduction, or why you might want to retrofit. Of course, there are many reasons. Some of them could be labor, some of them could be size. And the idea is in your building you have all these old valves with old actuators. And some of them are running very improperly, sloppily. They don't run, they're wasting energy. Performance is pretty bad, and you start thinking, okay, why would I retrofit over replacement? And again, there could be a host of reasons why you might want to put a full replacement in, but if we're focusing on retrofit as an option, again, you start thinking, the assumption is that the poor performance is probably caused by the valve. That's what the media is passing through. That's got to be what's really causing it. And what reality really is many times it's the actuator. The valves are pretty robust. Most of us in the HVAC market, the valves are very robust as far as longevity. It's the actuator that tends to fail before the valve. After all, they are just electronics, or in some cases pneumatic. So the idea, I guess, would come to mind. Simple solutions: replace the actuator with the identical model. Might not always be the case, though. Things like going from a pneumatic to a DDC system. There are some different transducers you can put into the system. They're a little bit harder to work with. But if you're updating your whole system to go fully electronic, state-of-the-art, let's say with BACnet and things like that, you might want to reconsider going to maybe a state-of-the-art actuator. Sometimes a lot of these actuators, the old ones, are obsolete. So just getting a like-for-like when you approach the company, this is the model I have, there might not be the replacement for it. The real idea, the bottom line would be to replace the actuator with something state-of-the-art, maybe energy efficient, get better control, save some water and energy or media, and ultimately have better control of your system, and better control could equal better comfort. And that's really what we're shooting for these days. So step by step, as far as retrofitting a Butterfly, these rules kind of apply to any type of valve, whether it's globe or ball valve. It really starts with the valve make and model. We had one of our customers, it might be on the line right now, sent us an email last night asking us about a pneumatic actuator. And although that information is very helpful of what the actuator was, we really need the valve information. We're going to be either choosing or manufacturing a linkage that fits on that valve, so we really need to know everything about the valve, not so much the actuator. From there, you take that data and you're going to go into one of the resources. One of them are the Retrofit Tech Doc, which you see in the handouts. Another one could be our Select Pro software, or even our new Retrofit app. From there, you'll have multiple choices of linkages. You'll take some actuator considerations, why you might pick one over the other. You select it, you purchase everything. Generally speaking, a lot of our kits are available within 2 to 3 days, unless they're custom. They take about 5 days. And when you receive it, back up and running, install the linkage, hopefully in a few minutes, and get your system back up and running with no hassle or no downtime. And ultimately, not removing the valve from the system. So where's this information located? How are we going to find this make and model? A lot of times this information will be on the casting of the valve body. You also might find it in various places, like you see here in the picture. It's a little tag on the side of the valve. There are times where it's on the neck of the valve, or possibly a little tag on a chain off the valve. Unfortunately, sometimes to get at this information, you might have to cut away some of the insulation, but I assure you it will definitely be in your benefit. If you can find the information, it will save you a lot of time and also money to go from a standard kit instead of using a custom kit. Take down every possible information you can. Make, model, part numbers, dashes, sizes, take pictures. If it's a two-way or a three-way, all this information is going to help you select the right kit. And as far as butterflies go, it does make quite a bit of difference. So just to kind of show you what some of the most common things we have, these would be our UFLK part numbers. The LK really signifies that it's a standard linkage kit. I say standard, it's some of the things that we have right in our catalog. Could be a keystone, figure 222. This is very common butterflies in the US. NIPCO, they have a very large marketplace with butterflies with handles. So even Retrofit could be automating a valve that once had a handle. Centerline, the C200 square top, which is shown here, they also made a round top. And of course, Bray, 30, 31, 40, 41, there's many others. These are just some of the ones that are standard in the catalog. And again, if you don't see it in the catalog, there is a backup plan. Just take note even sometimes the colors. Companies like Bray use red quite often. Any of that information that you think might be trivial, it definitely will help you retrofit. From there, you're going to take your information. Today, we're going to focus on a Centerline C200. You would look up in the table of contents from the Retrofit Tech Guide, which this is the 2015 one you see over here, which is included in the handouts. You can download it. You can also email us, and we can send it to you free of charge. There is no pricing in there. It's just a reference guide that shows you actuator to actuator, retrofits, butterfly, globes, all kinds of good stuff in there. We usually replace it about every year, year and a half, to include the latest kits that we have to offer. So from there, you go in the catalog, you'll find your make and model, and we'll go to the appropriate page. And again, if you don't have the make and model, not to worry. So, like we talked about today, we're going to focus on the Centerline C200. In the top pages, or again, if you have Select Pro or our Retrofit app, the same rules apply. You're going to look for make and model, and then you're going to whittle yourself all the way down to the linkage kit. And just note that two-way and three-way are broken out separately because those kits are very different. So in today's example, we're looking at that C200, a round top. You're going to go into the catalog. You're going to look to see that it was a two-way, 2.5 inch. We're on the right page. And you can see there's quite a bit of choices for the linkages. There's 5 choices in total. Some with non-spring and some with spring return or fail-safe. For those of you who don't know, fail-safe is when the power goes out, it will go to a fail position. And the non-fail-safe would be on a power failure, it would stop right where it is. So again, you're going to look here and see all these choices. We're going to take a look at each one and help decide what we want for our application. So I'll tell you ahead of time, today's example, we're using a Centerline two-way, and I ultimately want to have a non-spring return industrial actuator. So that's what our ultimate goal is today. Okay? So in the catalog selection, you see 5 actuator choices, a GM, SY1, SY2, 2 AFs, or a GK. Now, the next question you ask yourself, you saw in the catalog, do I need fail-safe? Yes or no? Okay? If I do need fail-safe, the choices are with AF or GK. The F is a spring return, the K is an electronic supercapacitor. And today we're focusing on non-fail. Okay, so now with non-fail, I have 4 choices, GMs, an SY1, and an SY2. Now, one of these, the GM, is a standard airside actuator. The other 2, the SYs, are an industrial style actuator. There's differences between both of those also. The standard actuators like the AF and GM, these are the kits that go along with it. They usually have less torque. They usually are NEMA 2 rated, which means it cannot be mounted outside. They have slower run times, and generally speaking, unless you order them with an end switch, they do not come standard with an end switch. And some do not even have a choice to put an end switch. So again, these are all considerations you need to think about up front before you select the actuator. On the industrial side, these are the linkage kits with an SY1 or 2. They generally have more force or more torque, which usually yields a higher close-off pressure or gives you a little bit extra. They are NEMA 4 and 4X rated, so they can be outside or in corrosive environments. They usually have a much faster runtime, and they come standard with end switches inside the case. So they're there, available, whether you need them or not. They are actually inside the case, come standard. So those are a real big difference between the two. So today we wanted to focus, again, I said I wanted an industrial version. Now there's two different versions between that. An SY1 and an SY2. The SY1 is a little bit smaller, has lower torque, where the SY2 is a little bit bigger. It has MFT functionality, so it can be any control signal you like, has a higher torque rating, and also comes standard with an external override crank. The SY1 only comes in on-off or a modulating 2 to 10. So they're both NEMA 4, they both have end switches, but they're a little bit different between each other also. So today I wanted non-fail-safe, industrial. I also wanted the override, so I chose the SY2. So what does that mean to us? As we whittled all the way down through the little catalog, we came up with this selection. A UFLK 3540 and an SY2 of your choice, which could be a 24, 110, modulating, on-off. So you have quite a few choices. All the choices are outlined in the PGPL, our price guide, in the retrofit section. There's also pricing there. In the price catalog, you would see the pricing for this UFLK linkage. An example, this one here might be $300 or $400 list price. An SY could range anywhere between $2,000 and $4,000 list price, depending on the size and features. So we've selected our linkage. The day comes where the linkage shows up, and inside the box you will get this instruction sheet, this little booklet, which is in the handouts also. It's a multiple page document that actually covers retrofitting globe, butterfly, and ball valve, anywhere from a two-way to a three-way, industrial, or standard actuators. So as you get the catalog, you'll flip through the appropriate kit you need. And in this case, let's see this picture here, you would find the corresponding pages that reference a three-way linkage. For us, we're focusing today on two-way, so you'd look at the top where it would say UFLK, two-way industrial style actuators, and that's what you would file the instruction sheets. Again, I'm just showing a picture here just to keep you in mind that a two-way and three-way, they are very different. You get quite a few more pieces on a three-way than versus on a two-way retrofit. Again, in this little booklet, it's important to go through it step by step. It'll take you from the starting point of installation all the way through to wiring. And in our case with an SY, there's an additional booklet that comes with the SY that will give you everything you need to know for SY wiring. And just note that they are very different as far as the wiring compared to a standard, let's say, damper side type of actuator. The catalog will give you a step-by-step how to put it, install it. It gives you a pictorial with some wording as far as mounting the linkage kit, some special considerations, again, some wiring and setup. All of this information will come with your retrofit kit. So, thus far we've taken a look at locating, make, and model, where to kind of find this information and how important it is. We looked it up in the catalog, or the Retrofit Solutions Guide. We looked at some of the different linkage choices and actuator choices, just to see what's different between them and why you might pick one over the other. And then we took a little bit look at the, as far as the resources that come with the linkages for mounting. So lastly, if you don't have the make and model, or you notice that it's a Bray, but it's not one of the choices that are in our catalog, we have the backup plan, which is our custom solutions, which does require a retrofit form, and we're going to go through that now, how to properly fill out the form. So, some things to think about in the beginning when you come across this valve for a custom solution. Is it a two-way or three-way? What are my height requirements? Just know that some of these linkages can be tall. Some of the actuators, like the SY, need a good 12, 13 inches to remove the cover. So you want to consider this before you go ahead and start thinking to retrofit that valve. Valve size and valve orientation. Does it come out to the left? Does it mount upside down? There's limitations to certain actuators. So again, this only really pertains if the make and model is not available, or the model is not available, or one of our salespeople, unfortunately, went in there the day before and pulled off the valve tag. This is how a way you can find it. So, filling out the form, there's one of these forms located on our website. It's located in the catalogs. This is the custom retrofit form for Butterfly. There is also one for a ball valve and a globe valve. What you're going to want to do is get yourself a set of calipers. All of our linkage kits, you're going to take the dimension right off the valve. There are cases that we do build a linkage on top of a linkage. If you really don't want to mess with the linkage, maybe it's part of the packing, or maybe there's some asbestos covering the insulation. Not to worry, we can build a linkage on top of someone else's linkage. But you're going to take this information right off the valve, not the actuator. Again, the actuator helps us, but that's not what we need. And I say a caliper because we're machining it here in our Belimo machine shop to the nearest thousandth of an inch. So when you send us this information, we're going to design the kit custom, a one-up solution for your valve. So it's important that you take it with a caliper, not something like a tape measure. We want to see the form preferably filled out with decimal places, not so much fraction, because one of the biggest notes to mention here is that the custom kits are not returnable. They are a one-up solution. You can see it right on the form here. They are not a returnable solution. Of course, we will work with you if we have to modify something and get it to work for you. What to fill out? What's important? One of the first things is the mount style. That's going to be of the overall bolt pattern of the valve. As you can see, we included some of the most common, a 4-bolt, square, diamond, 2-bolt. If yours isn't shown at all, feel free to fill out a little picture here. The more information you give, the better your retrofit will go. Shaft style. Tell us a little bit about the shaft style. We can machine just about anything here. We have a wire EDM machine. So I can cut an octagon, a hexagon, keyway, let us know what you have, and mounting holes. Some butterflies have a drilled hole, some are tapped. So we can supply the bolts, or you can reuse the bolts, but that's also very important. So we're going to take a look at each one of these sections one by one and how to fill them out. So in our example today, we're going to look at a mount style 1, which is just a bolt hole pattern that's in a square type. On the chart, you're going to see the dimensions that we fill out. In this case, mount style 1. Next, we're going to look at dimension A, which is from here to here, and we're going to fill that in. Next, you'll fill out dimension B, which would be from here to here. And lastly, dimension C, which is the length of the shaft, as you can see here. And I'm going to go a little bit into each one of these so you can really see what it is. Just note that you're taking the dimension from the center to center of the hole. So either with the pointy section of the caliper, or if you have dowel pins to fit in there, you can measure from outside to outside and then subtract the diameter. That's another trick that works well. Okay? So in our example, we're going to 1 3/4. That's what I got for dimension A, and I fill it in. Again, here's a real-world picture of what we're looking at for the mount style. Now, dimension B, We're going to measure that. In this case, we got 1 3/4 also. In many cases, A and B are the same. Some cases they're not. It might be a rectangle, but in this case, it is the same. Dimension C. Dimension C is the length of the shaft sticking out. This is the little piece where we're going to attach a coupler to that creates the interface between your valve and our actuator. You're going to take the long end of the caliper, and as you open the caliper, a little pin will stick out, and you're going to measure it from the base to the top. The length of that little pin sticking out will give you the length of the shaft. And again, in our example, we're using 1 1/4, 1.250. So, dimension D. Again, for our example, I'm using shaft style D, what they call a double D. You're going to open up the caliper, and you're going to put it across the total diameter of that valve shaft. You can see it here, and also here in a real pictorial. And we're going to jot that down. In our case, it is 0.625. Next, we're going to look at dimension E. Dimension E is the length of that flat as it goes down the shaft. Now, it's important to know that sometimes this dimension E does not travel the full length of the shaft. It could stop short. And in our example, it does stop short. 1.25 was how long dimension C was, the full length of the shaft. In this case, the flat ends just shy of the bearing, only at 1.10. This is really important so the coupler sits down. Either will sit up higher or it will bottom out. Lastly is dimension F, which is the diameter of the flats. Again, you're going to open up the caliper and measure these flats. You can see it here and also over here in the picture. We're going to jot that down, 0.437. Any other dimensions that you're not using, you could just write NA or put a line through it. They usually are pertaining to other shaft styles like a hexagon or a keyway. So from there, we filled out everything on the valve. The last little bit of information, which is very helpful, is about the actuary that was either currently there or what you're looking for. Just like we looked at before, for a standard kit, what kind of actuator do you need? Indoor, outdoor, VDC, fail-safe. We also need to know a little bit about the valve. Although the make and model might be missing, anything you can give us, particularly in this section, is very important. The two-way, if it's a three-way, the size, the media pressure. There's no need for us to give you a very large actuator if you only have a 2.5-inch butterfly that's low-pressure steam. So all that information helps us come to the right conclusion and the most economical solution for your retrofit. If you're filling out this form online in our retrofit resources, there's a submit button. If you push the submit button, it will send this form to our tech support where we can process it. I would stress on everyone when you fill out the form, especially today with digital cameras and our cell phones, take a couple pictures of what's going on. It will help us greatly, especially if the job site is quite far away. From there, they'll get the form, and we'll process it, and we'll give you back a quotation or send you to one of our distributors for a quotation with a UFSP number. This is for Butterfly Special. That's what the SP stands for. It means it's a custom linkage as opposed to the LK, which is one of our standard linkages that come right out of the catalog. The special linkages, again, take anywhere between 5 or even 7 days if they're very elaborate. And these are some of the pictures of the linkages, what you might receive. These are for two ways, either single, double with an SY, some of the three ways with a single, a double, or an SY. And all the prices, again, they vary between simple and complex. One of my main things is don't shy away from virtually anything. If there's a pipe above your valve If it's underneath a cooling tower and you need to put something in there, there generally is a way. We can make all kinds of custom linkages that can be on there. Some of them can be quite expensive, like one of these offsets, and take about 5 or 7 days. But I assure you, you will be able to retrofit that valve without losing any downtime. If you get equipment that was sent to you without any actuation by someone else's brand, make, and model, not to worry, we can put a linkage on it. So really the point of this slide is don't shy away. Sky's the limit. There's many resources out there to help you do these retrofits. Anything from the tech book, which is in the handouts. We have a retrofit app available now for iPhone and Android, and also iPad. And it'll work the same way as we looked at today. You would select water, Butterfly, Centerline, and it'll tell you what linkage to purchase. A lot of the standard linkages are available online. There's YouTube videos. All of our retrofits are in Select Pro. There's Belimo 101 modules for Butterfly or Globe. And another topic, fire and smoke retrofits. That's another very big topic and totally available to you. All these resources can be located on belimo.us. And with that, I would thank everyone for attending today. I appreciate all your time, and I will hand it over to Michaela.
All right, thank you so much, Joe. We do have a couple of questions, so if you do have additional questions after I end the webinar, please feel free to email me, or you can email marketing@us.belimo.com, and we'll surely assist you. All right, so here we go, Joe, with some questions.
Okay.
Are there any known butterfly valve applications that cannot be retrofitted of cost prohibited?
I would say some applications that are a little out of Belimo's scope for HVAC, we shy away from, as far as things like cryogenics. None of our actuators are submergible, so there are butterfly applications that could be at the bottom of a elevator shaft or swimming pool. We stay away from a lot of those because our actuators are not submergible. We also tend to shy away from applications that are safety, gas valves specifically. When you go to retrofit a gas valve, you want to be the control valve, but never the safety valve. You don't want to take on being the safety valve for a retrofit. But so those are really the ones we shy away from. I would say just keep it in your scope. If you're dealing with an HVAC actuator, try and have the application match that valve.
All right. Next question. Is it a good practice to convert a hand isolation valve to a modulating type?
The general rule of thumb for me for retrofitting any valve is if it has a handle, but it also has a mounting pad, a mounting surface, they could be ISO pad or not, then this valve was intended to be automated. There are some valves that don't have any mounting surfaces that were intended just to be a hand valve. They're not intended to be automated daily. But I would say, yeah, it's a good idea. If you are the technician that has to get stuck running down to the basement every day, sometimes you want to put an actuator on there that's just on-off. I just need to turn this on and off daily. Maybe you throw an actuator on there with a very simple switch or circuit. But yeah, this happens very, very often. Systems get put in with a handle, and then later on they want to be automated as the system gets bigger or the building it gets bigger.
All right, next couple of questions. If MFT is programmable, what type of programs does it have?
It's on-off, modulating as far as VDC signals, 2 to 10, 0 to 10, and it also does 4 to 20 milliamp.
Okay. What are some ways to tell if the valve has failed as opposed to the actuator?
Before you do a retrofit, I would say take off the actuator, and you want to do a full inspection of that valve. Putting a wrench or pipe wrench on it, see if you can fully open it, fully close it, see if it closes off all the way. If there's any signs of the bearing have been leaking for many years, either water pooled up on the shaft or a big pool of water on the floor, you generally might want to stay away from it. If you go to open and close the valve and it takes much more than you can do with hand power, you might have a problem with your seal or some debris in there. So doing a full inspection of the valve is very important before you take a look at retrofitting a valve. Make sure the valve is still good. I always like to isolate the actuator from the valve and do an individual inspection on each to determine what's going on.
All right, and the next two questions I'm actually going to handle. So the first question is, can this course or webinar today be counted as a professional development hour course for professional engineers? Unfortunately, today is not a professional engineer continuing education course, so we are not providing any CE credits. And then the final question we have from our audience, where can we access this webinar to rewatch it at a later time? That's an excellent question. At the end of the webinar, you will be receiving a thank you letter for attending, and in that thank you note you will receive a link. You can also find this webinar posted to our YouTube page. Simply type in Belimo and our in the search engine on YouTube, and our Belimo Air Controls page will pop up, and you'll see it's a recently added webinar or link to that page. Just give us a couple of hours to get that all set, but probably by tomorrow it will be ready. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to email us at marketing@us.belimo.com. I thank you everyone once again for attending today's webinar, Introduction to Retrofitting Butterfly Valves. Joe Carcare, thank you so much for doing an excellent job. And once again, we look forward to having you participate in our next webinar. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.